Welcome back, everybody, to Pull Hook Golf, the podcast. I'm your host, Matt Cook, and on today's episode, we've got an awesome guest, Matt Erley of Old Tom Venture Club. And boy, do we have an awesome episode to get into. But before we do, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Swannies Golf. Swannies Golf, go to swannies.co. That's SWANNIES.co and get 25% off your entire order when using the promo code PullHookGolf25. That's PullHookGolf25. Use that at checkout, get 25% off your entire order. Now, let's get into the episode. All right, here we go. Let's get right into it now, Matt. First off, thank you for being on the show. And second of all, let's get into the golf journey side to this because, you're investing in the future of golf. I want to know kind of what is your background? How did you get hooked to this awesome sport?
Yeah, glad to be here. Appreciate you having me, Matt. I guess to kick it off, I believe very strongly in the future of sort of venture and entrepreneurship within the golf space. And so, over the last couple of years have decided to take a pretty deep dive and build an investment group that's entirely focused on the golf industry. How I got into this, I'm an operator by background. So have spent most of my career building companies, building startups. Was an early team member at Drizzly in the alcohol delivery e-commerce space, kind of at the early days of delivery and for food and alcohol and stuff. 12 or so years ago, was a part of building another company called Havenly that's in the online interior design world. Did some other startups since then, but really felt like there were some incredible people building things that were in the golf space. And I've been around golf for a long time, had recently joined a club here in Denver and just was talking to lots of folks that love to invest, that have some capital to deploy and that also care a lot about the golf industry and where golf is going. And so, I put together a syndicate of investors. At that time, now we have about 100 and little over 160 members in our syndicate who are all, golf obsessed, golf strategic investors. Everybody from tour players to CEOs of golf companies to just folks that really love the game and are accredited investors. And so we've been going out and identifying opportunities in the golf space, in the startup world, companies raising money and just trying to get behind them and fund great founders that are building something in the golf space. We think that there's just a huge wave of opportunity in golf that's being built right now, especially in things like technology and software and entertainment. There's a lot of value that's going to be built inside of the golf space over the next 10 years. And so we're just trying to get behind founders that are building things and help investors find great opportunities to invest their money in and see some good return.
Love that. Now, how did your golf journey start? Like, were you always a golfer kind of, as a kid growing up, or how did you get into the game?
Yeah, I was, I always loved the game at an early age. I was never like a great player. I was an okay player. I call myself the B squad on the high school team. Right. But maybe the most passionate of the B squad. I just loved being around golf. I loved spending time with people. And so, I just have been a big fan of the game for a long time. And I spent some time away from golf, I think kind of post college and in my, mid to late 20s. And then, I got back into it, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, as mentioned, joined a club here in Denver, Cherry Hills, which is just a great,
terrible place.
Yeah. Real dog track. And so, just got like kind of reintroduced to the love of the game. And I think I love the ecosystem that golf sits in. I love what golf represents, the history of golf, but also being open to where golf is going, right? Like, there's a great quote of, respect history, but make some, right? I think it's like respecting that golf, the history of golf, how it used to be played, the passion there, but also what is golf going to be to the next generation of people? Like, my perspective is like golf is whatever if somebody wants to be a golfer, they're a golfer. If you show up at a Top Golf, you're a golfer. If you go play putt, you're a golfer. If you have play golf on a VR headset, you're a golfer. I mean, there's sort of the traditional golf. There's the golf that I like to play on a traditional 18-hole green grass course. But I think the ability to be open to golf is whatever someone wants it to be. And I don't want to pinhole golf into something that is the golf that's for me. I want it to be, I think the more that we're open to what golf is for the individual, then the more the game's going to grow, and the more there's these entry points, and you can take the golf curious crowd and you can get them exposure into, what it means to play the game. And so yeah, just to, my journey has been a lot of fun, and just becoming a golfer at an early age. But I'm very excited about kind of where golf is going in the modern game as well.
Absolutely. From a business aspect, especially, I know golf. I mean, I've been involved in golf technology previously, as well as a VP of one of the golf simulator companies that is out there. And with that, I have seen firsthand how technology can really help grow the game of golf, and really some of these directions that we're going to be talking about today as to where this is all heading. But certainly you did mention one thing there that kind of caught my ear, so to speak, and that was respecting the history of the game. Is that a little bit of where the name for the fun came from, with good old Tom Morris?
Yeah, absolutely. Old Tom Morris, I view as he's really one of the founders of the modern day game of golf, right? I mean, old Tom was an entrepreneur. He was loved by some, but disliked by some as well. I mean, he was innovating in the game. He was changing the composition of the golf ball. He was thinking about course design in a different way. So yes, certainly Old Tom Ventures and Old Tom Venture Club is an ode to Old Tom Morris and his place in the golf game as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as a builder, as an innovator. And so yeah, we had a lot of fun kind of coming up with that concept, and being able to play some homage to who Old Tom is. And I think too, if you're in the game and around the game, you recognize that name. And so yeah, we wanted to have a little bit of that history in what we're doing.
Yeah, I threw up one of his club designs right behind me on the green screen. We've
Yep.
got good old Presswick, which was one of his designs, and he spent a lot of time there apparently. So had to
Yep.
give a little bit of respect here
Shout out.
to the
Yep.
name, to good old Tom Morris. But as we do get into, again, bit more in regards to your business journey, now you did mention a couple things. You did graduate from the prestigious Thunderbird School of Global Management, which is top class in terms of business. So from there, that kind of led you down into a couple different avenues from business. But tell me a little bit about that, because one of those in particular is Drizly. I don't know if you started there or not, but would love to hear more in regards to that business journey that you took.
Yeah, I love to build things, and I was finishing business school at Thunderbird and was thinking about where I wanted to go, and a lot of my classmates were going and working for sort of large, multinational, international companies, which is pretty typical of a Thunderbird MBA. And yeah, I just wanted to try something where I could get my hands on being a part of building a business. And so I met the founders of Drizzly that had just recently launched the business, less than a year before I got involved, and they hired me to help them go scale across the U.S. And so I played the role of a head of growth at Drizzly, and my job was, let's bring a new concept to market. And I think why that was so valuable for me at that period of time, and what I continue to bring with me now is it's challenging to bring something new to market when, the world sort of hasn't seen something in that way. And so for us in building Drizzly, we had to go convince liquor store owners that e-commerce was a trend that was going to impact their business, and that there was an opportunity for them to do well if they took advantage of that tailwind, which was difficult to convince them in 2012, and then to go market to consumers and to get them to purchase product in a way that was different. And I think a lot of people thought that it was illegal, and it was, it was challenging to actually be able to order alcohol to your door. And so we spent years just developing that model and growing new markets and bringing on new stores and going out to market to consumers. And I think, it feels like a lot of startups that are successful are successful overnight, but what the reality is that it just takes a lot of work. It's about survival, right? I mean, one of the things that I always talk to founders that we work with is like, when you're an entrepreneur, your spirit animal is a cockroach because it's the last to die, and it's just like, stay alive, just figure out how to get to that next day, how to get to that next week, like eventually, if you are a business that has some product market fit and there's you're able to change consumer habits or business habits over time, you're going to get there. But you just have to stick it out. You just have to be be the one who's not going to go away, right? And so I think that was my journey at Drizzly, and Drizzly eventually had a great exit to Uber, and we always kind of joked internally that Uber was going to be the one who was going to buy us. But, I don't know if you ever actually like truly believe that that's going to happen. And then when it does, it's pretty special. But yeah, a lot of lessons learned in being in the trenches of building startups, and sleepless nights of trying to figure out how you're going to grow and how you're going to stay alive. And so I think that has also prepared me a lot in this journey of working with founders and investing in companies, and also just the practical side of what does it take to grow, right? It's hard to grow a startup. And so much of startup growth is practical. It's what are we going to do today to help get that next customer, that next 10 or 20 or 50 customers. Like, it's not, you have to stay very focused on those short-term opportunities. And so just being able to participate in entrepreneurs' journeys now within the golf space and help them understand what those practical concepts are around how to get to that next stage has been something that I've really enjoyed.
Oh, all of that resonates, let me tell you, because this podcast in particular was created from the ground up. I built a podcast agency and a network for a company based out of LA. And I'm like, you know what? I should go and really get back to my passion, which is golf, and let me build something here. And sure enough, over a 2-year time frame, which we're just coming up on 2 years, it went from, you had 20 listeners to all of a sudden 100. And then you're like, kind of hit that plateau where you're like, man, is this thing ever going to grow? Do people actually want to listen to what I have to say about golf? And sure enough, after about a year, everything started taking off from there. Now we're in the range of about 20,000 listeners on a weekly basis, which is...
You're a fellow cockroach, Matt.
I never died. I just kept coming back. Coming back. And that's the thing. I always used to preach consistency to anybody that was going to be a podcast host or really in business in general. Right. And that was the thing. In 2 years, have not missed a single week of this show. So it's certainly, I can resonate with all of that. But what led you from those business experiences to all of a sudden saying, hey, now it's time to go and spend some money in the golf avenue, with this venture club? Like, what was that process like to all of a sudden deciding that this is the next step in your journey?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to do some angel investing into some companies outside of the golf space through some strategic syndicates. And so, what a syndicate is a group of investors that are participating in typically like a single deal versus a fund that's going to go raise a big fund and deploy that cash over time. Syndicates are nice because you can look at every deal and decide if you want to get in that or not. And so I had participated in some of these investments through some strategic syndicates of other startup growth marketing people kind of investing in some consumer companies. And I just really love that model. I love being able to write a small check and get involved. And so when I started looking at the golf space, just as someone who is a fan of golf, I was surprised that there was not as much capital going into golf as I expected, right? There's a lot of people building things. There's a lot of the golf industry is a massive industry, but I think what I was seeing is that in talking to a lot of entrepreneurs is that they were struggling to find strategic investors and also even just position themselves in the golf industry as a good opportunity for investment. I don't know that outside investors have historically taken the golf industry as seriously as they should, potentially because it feels small. It feels like it's driven entirely by large players. It feels like it's mostly value is coming from golf courses and large club manufacturers and others. But really, and maybe that was more true in the past, but realistically, what's happening now is there is so much opportunity to build in the golf industry that I saw these new entrepreneurs coming in and people building, many of which are completely from outside of golf, right? Which is one of the best indicators that golf is a good place to build, is when serious entrepreneurs who have done well outside of golf are coming in and saying this is somewhere where I want to build because I see an opportunity to make money and to create value, not just because I like golf, but because it's a good place to build. And the problem with the golf industry is I think that sometimes people they're too excited and too obsessed with golf that when they decide to build something, they almost have these like goggles on that they don't see that maybe what they're building is not, doesn't have the same opportunity that another business might, because they're just so excitable about golf. And so I think you have some potentially overly passionate entrepreneurs in golf that are building things that they haven't spent the time like really qualifying that opportunity. They haven't gone on the same path that an entrepreneur might, building in a space that doesn't have the passion or the excitement or the interest in, right? And so I think that's another reason that maybe outside investors they see that, right? And they want entrepreneurs who, it's fine if they love golf, but they need to be in it because they think there's a big opportunity to make money and to do well and to also return capital to investors if they're going to take money from investors. So all of that being said, I felt like there was a strong opportunity to create a narrative-driven investment thesis in golf, to build a large group of investors that care about golf and want to deploy capital, and to build the right relationships within golf where there is a very strategic, a strategic group that can also be helpful to those companies once we invest in them, right? And so I met my business partner along the way, Evan Roosevelt, and Evan founded Random Golf Club, which is a very popular, content business in the golf space that he founded with Eric Anders Lang. And Evan had exited from that business about a little over a year ago. And so he and I kind of came together around this idea of like, let's build a strategic investment group in golf. Evan brings a lot of those relationships. I bring a lot of that in early stage operator experience as well as Evan. And let's go do something, let's go tackle this and try to build a really strong investment group that's sitting right at the center of the golf ecosystem. And let's just be unapologetically focused on what's happening in golf and not need to have this huge, wide investment thesis of we're going to invest in anything that looks good. Let's stay really narrow. And we think that so far that has been the right approach for us.
Now, a quick word from our sponsor. Swannies is here with a fresh take. Performance-based materials are a given these days. But if you're looking for the stretchiest and most lightweight pieces that deliver a look that says, I'm here for a good time, take a walk on the Swannies side. With fabric sourced from recycled plastics and designs sourced from our very own weekend warriors, Swannies is looking out for both our planet and those that need a little style to boost their drive another 15 yards. Premium looks from top to bottom at swannies.co. So what do you guys tend to look for when making an investment into a golf business? There's numerous golf businesses that, are popping up left and right. We get approached by them all the time, especially from like, hey, would you guys be interested in doing an influencer deal or something along those lines?
Yep.
So it is interesting to see, but I'm curious, what makes you interested in a particular golf business?
Yeah. First and foremost, when you're investing in an early stage startup, you just have to find founders that are phenomenal individuals. Like what I know about early stage startups from the experience of building them myself is that you're always going to run into considerable challenges along the way that are going to cause you to have to pivot and change and run through walls. And if you don't have good founders that are not prepared to do that, then they're going to struggle no matter how good the idea is. So we look for really, really compelling founders. Maybe they have a track record of doing that before. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're just the type of people that we believe have the grit to go be a cockroach, right? That's number one. Number two is the ability to be tackling a portion of the golf space that can have considerable returns, right? When you niche down in golf, you might find yourself in too narrow of a space where there's just not enough available customers or revenue for you to build a big business. And that's okay, but don't take venture capital money if that's the case, right?
Yeah.
Because venture capital expects many, many, many times return, 10x, 20x, 50x. And so we're looking for founders that are building in a category of golf where we think they can own a large portion of the golf consumer, or maybe B2B side, or whatever it is. It has to have at least a large enough addressable market within golf. And so that matters a lot as well. We are okay if it is not a golf only business. It needs to touch golf in some way, right? So there's a lot of interesting opportunities that we're looking at that they're not a golf business, but they have an entry point or a portion of their business is in the golf space. We like that because that also expands the addressable market that's available to us. But we do want them, squarely kind of in that golf space and be touching that. And then, yeah, I think a little bit of momentum, right? Like early stage investors, we have to take on a lot of risk by not knowing exactly what that revenue is going to look like, or what, that product market fit's going to look like. But we need to de-risk that a little bit. So I think, pre-launch companies and things that are just an idea or a concept are very difficult to invest in. We really look for something that has shown a little bit of momentum. Those early indications that they're on a path where there is product market fit that they're going for, that consumers value what they're selling. We need to look for that to de-risk that investment for us. And so I would say those are the main things that we're constantly trying to understand.
Man, you nailed my second question too, which was when it's the best time to invest in a business, or for a business to receive an investment. And clearly you stated that is around having some momentum and not necessarily kind of just being an idea or a concept before that particular investment takes place.
I'll qualify it. I mean, we get with a lot of people who come to us with ideas, or there's like a little bit of building towards that. I just don't think it's the right time to talk to an investor. I would go, what's great about golf is if you're building something for like the green grass space, like it's not hard to go connect with 50 agronomists or 100 club pros, or, I mean, you can, I mean, go qualify the opportunity with people, go build some product and get it in front of them, understand what they need, understand if they have a willingness to pay for it. Like, do the work. Don't just assume that what you're building is going to be immediately understood and loved by your customer. I think that's the thing that's missed the most when I look at when I receive a pitch from someone, is the product has had, so whatever that product is, if it's software, if it's a hardware, if it's a soft good, like, the product has had a lot of thinking put into it, but the actual growth model of how I'm going to take that out to the market and how am I going to survive along the way and not lose all of the money that I have to spend on marketing and growth and whatever, like, that's typically the thing it's thought about the least. And for me, it's the most important thing. So if you have a 25-page slide deck, like, one slide is not enough in thinking about your growth perspective and your growth strategy and qualifying the market. And I think that is considerably the most important thing. So I would just encourage entrepreneurs to have put the effort into that, because for sophisticated investors, that's what they're putting money into a business with the expectation that that business is going to survive while they deploy that money to grow. And oftentimes, or most of the time, the risk is that that doesn't happen, and that their growth trajectory is going to end up spending money, and they're going to sort of run out of what they have and not be able to get to that next stage. And so that is something I care about a lot.
Love that. Love that answer. I got nothing to follow up on that one at all. That was priceless right there. Folks, if you have a golf business and you're listening to this, take that advice right there. And gosh, that was actually my next question. What advice would you give to a business looking for investment money? Is there anything further that you would add to that?
Yeah, I would focus on building a good business that just happens to be in the golf space, not building a golf business. What I mean by that is, I think that, again, sometimes there's too much of a focus on, I love golf, I want to work in golf. I'm building something in golf that all my friends love because they all love golf. It's like, you have to at times disassociate yourself from the fact that you're building in a category that you're passionate about, and just go try to build a good business, right? Like, forget that it's in golf. And so think about the fundamentals of what that takes. If you were building a business in a category you didn't care about, it's probably because you think there's a big opportunity to just build a valuable business. I want more entrepreneurs to think that way who are building in golf. Because, again, removing the goggles a bit and it is important. If you come up with an idea on the golf course with your buddies and you ask them if it's a good idea, most of them are probably going to say yes, because they like golf and they like you and they like, so don't qualify your opportunities with your group of friends. Go talk to people who don't even like golf, don't even play golf. Understand if they think it's a good business concept, understand if they think, I'm not here to tell anyone what's a good idea and what's not a good idea. But if you're going to take a long journey, which is going to take years to go build something, and you're going to put your own money into it, you're going to put your own time into it, like, make sure that you actually realistically think that this is something that can scale and that can support you and your family, and don't just do it because you love golf. Because I think too often we see that maybe is a fun journey to some degree, but it just ends with, I wish I would have spent more time qualifying this ahead of time to know that it was something that I want to go fight for, because you're gonna have to fight for it every day. So if you want to decide what you want to go build, and if you want to actually fight every day and be in the trenches and have sleepless nights and do all that, make sure it's something you really, really believe in, not just that you're excited about.
100%. I can personally relate, just because I've been down that path with multiple companies that, gosh, one of them was in VR for Major League Baseball. And that was certainly the grind, so to speak, just because people weren't investing in VR at the time. Like
Yeah,
VR
and
was
it's
already kind of past its point, and they're
yeah,
like,
and
nope.
that's a good point, Matt. Is like timing matters so much. It's just because someone else hasn't done it doesn't mean that first to market is a good thing. It's like for every successful startup, there were many startups that looked very similar to it that came ahead of it that didn't make it because they were the ones warming the market up for that thing. So just also be confident enough that you're building at a time that is consumers are looking or will be looking, or you can nurture those people into uh, being ready for whatever you're bringing. I think timing matters a lot, luck matters a lot, grit matters a lot. And look, it's I love golf. I love playing golf. I feel blessed to be able to be working on a business in the golf space, and other people should too. I don't mean to say who cares, like stop liking golf too much if you're building a company in the golf space. It's great to be able to love golf. It's just you've got to separate those at times and say, I need to build a good business. I'm a passionate golfer. Like they don't need to always exist at the same time with one another. Um, and so I think just having that perspective is important for entrepreneurs.
Agreed. You've said it very, very well there. You've got to make sure that you're willing to put in the time. And by the way, when it's time, it is a lot of sleepless nights. Lot of
Yep.
sleepless nights. That
Yep.
is for sure. And you got to be ready for that journey beyond just, oh, I've got a passion for the game of golf and I really want to start this new business up. So being
Right.
smart about it is what I'm really taking away for the
Yep.
audience to take away as well, that hey, put together a very solid business, and if it happens to be related to golf that you're very passionate about and want to be a part of,
Yeah.
that's the home run right there.
Yeah.
Now,
Stress test it even more than you would if it was in a category that you didn't love. If it's
yeah,
in a category you love, it requires 3 times as much due diligence on your part because you're already biased because you love the game, you love the sport, you love being in that space. So just try to be your own devil's advocate even more than you might because you're too close to it. It's your just a startup's already your baby. If you think that baby's the most beautiful baby, and which every golfer, like, they're just so, I mean, we're all golf sickos, right? So you just have to like remove the golf sicko hat for a moment and say, is this something I want to go build? And if yes, go do it, right? Go do it. And let the haters hate on it. Let everybody around you tell you it's not going to work. Go do it. But if you're not ready to go down that journey, then like maybe take a moment and breathe and decide that, right?
because it is life altering when you
Yeah.
when you go down the entrepreneurial path. It is, I like to call it the virus that is being an entrepreneur, because once you get that virus, there's
Yeah.
no real going back after that point
You're
at
sick.
all.
You're
You're a
sick.
sicko. Now, as far as golf businesses that you're currently invested in, take us through, because I know one in particular, Drive Box, with a deal. I've had a deal on. We had a great time on our interview talking about the Drive Box concept,
Yeah.
everything he's doing there. But take us through some of the companies that you're currently invested in.
Yeah. Look, a deal's a great example of a just a strong founder coming from outside of golf who identified an opportunity to build a concept that scales a lot within the game. And we liked Drivebox from day one because it gave us exposure to the sim entertainment space, but it had the economics to scale much more than physical bar and restaurant food and beverage concepts that are the typical simulator concepts.
Yeah.
I love those concepts. I just those are not venture scale concepts typically when they have one or two locations, when they're your local market businesses. They can
Yep.
be very profitable businesses. They can make the operators a lot of money. But we were looking for something in the sim space that could really scale. And so Drivebox represented that for us. And the fact that they're now pushing heavier into franchising only is even more of a catalyst for them to be able to scale, right? So I want to be in a business that can have 500 locations or 1,000 locations. Well, Drivebox can do that. And so Adil and Jake and the team, like, it's just a good founding team of some golf expertise, an outside perspective. I mean, Adil's a trained physician. Like this is not a golf founder, right? It's
So
just
true.
it's just a smart person building a company that happens to be in the golf space, right? So that's why we really like Drivebox, and they're a team that's just pushing hard. They have a good model. They tested that model early on. They didn't go throw 100 of these out across the country. They started in one market. They prove the concept. They look at the ROI of a single box. Does that work? Does it not work? And then as they qualify each of those, they earn the right to continue to grow and expand and raise money and do all the things, right? So Drivebox, definitely one we're excited about.
And it's versatile, which is awesome. Like, we've done podcast interviews inside of the Drive Box out in Gilbert, Arizona. I mean, there's so many opportunities to be able to utilize Drive Box. Look at me, I'm giving a pitch for people becoming a franchisee of Drivebox. It's but really, I mean, there's so much potential that's there. And again, that goes right into what you've been saying this entire time, with just a smart business concept and idea that has really formulated into this great business now. And one of the cool things too, you go back and you look at the original Drivebox compared to what they look like now, and it is night and day. So folks, your product doesn't have to be perfect in the beginning, to say the least.
It's going to be a different business than what you're building in the beginning. So that's why what I didn't mention when you asked me what I'm looking for when we're investing in a business, I don't really even look like the concept's got to be good, but it's probably the least important thing, because that's going to change. The concept's going to change. The founders don't change. The market size probably doesn't change. Like these are things that we have to know are in place up front, but the concept's going to evolve. It's going to, and so it's like, you have to make sure that the other foundational elements are in a good place. We invested in Fair Game as one of our first investments, a software business that is founded by Eric Mayville, who's a former agency founder, a creative agency founder in New York, Ben Clymer, who founded the most successful content and commerce business in the timepiece space called Hodinkee. Very valuable business. And then
I'm a watch guy, so I know of them. Yeah.
There you go. And then a decent pro golfer by the name of Adam Scott.
Terrible player.
Who
terrible looking too.
Yeah, exactly. And the three of them built a business called Fair Game that, there's a lot of companies trying to tackle kind of this like app consumer world within the golf space. How do you create a connection between the golfer and things like, gameplay and content and betting and stuff like that. Why we really like Fair Game is they had a very robust belief that golf and technology and software just needed to be better, and that there's a more elegant way to allow golfers to experience software, whether that's for tournament management or on-course experiences or what have you. And so they've been really building towards that. They just launched a Fair Game Pro, which is pushing into that tournament management space for for private and public clubs.
Okay.
But we feel strongly that golf needs better software in general. And so Fair Game, again, great founders that are building in what we think is a big category, and they're willing to go on this journey of figuring out what that company kind of continues to evolve into, with the foundational belief that good software and a connection to the player and the club, matters. And so got involved with them. Putter, which is a product company in the putting at-home putting space, sort of a Peloton gamified putting mat that uses computer vision to shoot down on the cup and be able to create more of a digital gameplay experience. So imagine, you're at home with your buddies or your kid or your family, and you can, play games on the screen based on miss and makes of an actual like physical putting mat experience. And so Matt Allard, just a really strong founder with a software background. Again, the theme here is non-golf founders, right? Like build and not hating on people in the golf space, but like people in the golf space also need to think a little less like they're in the golf space. And it's important to remove our biases sometimes. So when we're investing in founders that are non-golf founders, that's already the case, and we kind of like that. But Matt comes from a software background. He's built a really strong product, and we think putting is just one of the more fun things to do at home, whether you're a golfer or not a golfer. And so the addressable market on that product is endless. So it's not even just for golfers, it's for anybody who wants to have fun at home. And so we got involved in that deal. Sweetens Cove Spirits, which is an alcohol business, right? But it's connected to the history and sort of the love of what's considered one of the best 9-hole golf courses in the country in Sweetens Cove. The tradition at Sweetens Cove is a shot of bourbon on the first tee, and so out of that tradition was born this bourbon and spirits business that is, again, an alcohol brand, but it has these this exposure and these traditions sort of within the connection to the golf space. So it was an opportunity for us to invest in something that was a little bit different and a little unique, but we believe that they're going to continue to do really well as becoming a little bit more of like golf's whiskey, golf's bourbon. But it doesn't need to just be golf. It's not branded with a golf ball on the top of it, right? It's a great bourbon that is doing some things in the golf space, right? And so we like that, but like somebody can walk up to it on the shelf and care less about golf and try the product and love it and buy it. And so again, that gives us larger opportunity outside of golf while still maintaining our thesis inside of golf. So those are the 4 companies that we did last year. We just made an investment a couple of weeks ago. That's sort of still a confidential investment that we can.
I was about to say, are we going to get some breaking news here?
Not today, but we made a really exciting investment for us into a company that we think is kind of exploding in the golf space and doing some really interesting things kind of moving forward. And so that announcement will come out in the next couple months or so. But yeah, we're active. We'll probably bring 10 to 12 deals into our syndicate this year, and that we want to get involved in. And we love the categories that are a little different within golf or that are experiencing big growth. I mean, we love the software space. We love the entertainment space. Agronomy is something that we're really
interesting.
A ton of on-course agronomy technology and tools that are going to be really valuable to even thinking about things like what's going to happen when golf courses in the West are struggling to stay open because their water rights have been taken away, and how are they going to manage the right seed and change the structures of those golf courses with the grasses that they have that are low water needs. And so I think there's just, when you're investing, you have to think about, well, where is this going and what are going to be the needs of the industry forward looking. And so thinking about things like that, international markets for golf. I mean, what's golf going to look like in India in 20 years? We know golf is huge in Asia, but it's different, right? It's experienced more in a simulator setting or a driving range. So what's happening there, and what are companies doing, thinking about building in that environment? Women's golf, like what's taking place in women's golf as that continues to grow, and there's more of an entry point there. What's the golf curious crowd thinking about? That group that's going to a Topgolf, well, where are they going next? They're not walking out onto a traditional 18-hole course a week after they hit balls at Topgolf. Like there's a gap in between those spaces. So who's building in that area? So we're looking at like, what are the trends that we see within golf, or that we believe are going to come, And then what are the companies that are sort of fitting into that narrative, and what are they thinking about it? How can we get behind them? So I'd say those are some of the like areas where we have a lot of interest.
Now, as far as partnerships, what do you do, or what is your level of involvement with these businesses beyond the investment?
We want to get as involved as we can, and not be smothering to founders. We want to let founders go do what they're good at, which is building great companies. And if we've invested in them, we think that they're the right people to go do that. We also want to be as helpful as we can. So we are, Evan and I, our backgrounds are as operators. We're not finance background, venture background, banking background. There's nothing wrong with that, but like we are operators, and so we want to get in and roll our sleeves up. We think that companies in golf have the opportunity to also succeed because of the rooms that they can put themselves into and the relationships that they have. If golf is a tight and narrow space, which it is to some degree, then it matters also those relationships. And so we're just trying to get as involved as much as possible to be helpful, but not to overstep our boundaries on that. But we're certainly not passive investors. We think in golf, typical early stage venture is built around this idea of like power law dynamics, where you have to invest in 100 companies because only a small number of them are going to do well. And I believe that's true across all venture, early stage venture. But in golf, maybe the caveat, as well as other narrow categories, is that we think that getting more involved in trying to help our companies have advantages is the right way to do it, and is going to give us an advantage. And so we're not trying to spread small checks across hundreds of companies. We're trying to find the ones that we really believe in, and get involved and participate in their growth.
Love that. Now, I'm going to put you on the venture capital or venture club hot seat. Okay.
Yeah.
There's going to be rapid fire questions here for you. What does the future, in your opinion, look like for the game of golf?
Last year, golf had more people who played off of a golf course than on a golf course. So if I didn't address that, that would probably be silly. Golf is going to have a traditional side to it, and a green grass 18-hole country club thing, but golf is going to be played by a much larger number of people who experience it in their own way. And so I think you're going to have pockets of golf that are virtual and digital in the forms of the video games and the AR space that we have. You're going to have a pocket that is driving ranges and sims. You're going to have a pocket that's traditional green grass. You're going to have new spaces like, what's the pickleball of golf? Like, pickleball is not tennis. Pickleball is its own thing. It has tendencies that look like tennis. It has, it feels a little like tennis, but it's not tennis. It's not just like a different version of tennis. It's its own game. It's its own sport. Like, what's that in golf? I know we've talked to lots of entrepreneurs that are thinking about that and doing some building in that space, but like, golf is going to be whatever somebody wants golf to be for them. And it's going to be a much less confined or defined sport. And I think that's okay. And that's at the amateur level. If I'm not even going to get into what golf is going to look like at a professional level, because I'm not smart enough to sort of have a strong opinion on that. But I think the connection point there is that at the professional level, golf is flattening right now to some degree. Again, I don't have a perspective on whether that's good or bad, but it's flattening. And what that's doing is it's also introducing more types of golf into that experience, whether it's what Grass Clippings is doing in Phoenix with a par 3 league that is like high quality, professional quality golfers that are playing that. And that's going to go, it's already been into a broadcast environment, basically, with what Good did, like all of that is really good for the game, because it's just introducing different formats of golf and different types of ways to view golf and different ways, different types of viewers to that golf. And so I think this flattening of professional golf, and therefore what that impacts around the game, and in the amateur side, and the recreational side, and what people are building, like it's all a part of an ecosystem that's coming together there. But I think overall, more people are experiencing golf, they're liking golf, they're playing golf in their own way, and anyone who thinks that that's not a good thing, should probably consider what their view of golf is and why it's so much better than everyone else.
Curious question around this as part of this hot seat. What do you think about the new direction for the PGA Tour with Strategic Sports Group and potentially PIF?
I think that it makes sense for the PGA Tour to be pulling players into an equity relationship, that allows them to have more stake in what is being the value that's being created with the tour. If you look at any other professional sports league, that is happening in those leagues. Like it's happening at the franchise level, right? It's not necessarily happening directly at the player level, but the franchise is making more money, allows the players to make more money. There's not teams in professional golf at the PGA level, right? And so the ability to create these equity relationships with players and compensate them for the work that they're doing, growing the space and the media rights and everything else, I can't think of how that's a bad thing. And it also creates a lot more of a relationship between the players and the organization. The relationship with the Saudis and the PIF and all that stuff. Look, I think from a business side, it was expected that a number of groups in the U.S. would put their hands up and say, if this is the money that the Saudis are going to put in, we're happy to come up with that capital. I think it was a little bit of an arbitrary number, because when you have a foreign wealth fund kind of putting money up, and they want what they want, like it doesn't necessarily need to be based on an exact formula. I learned a lot. I think in the startup world, you learn you're worth whatever someone's willing to pay for you, and that's probably a bit of what we saw there. And so yeah, I think that Fenway coming in and being able to put up the money for that, and build out a syndicate of people who really care about golf, but also a new wave of investors. I mean, there were some pretty interesting investors in that group that have never invested, or I don't even know if they play golf or have been involved in golf. And that's good, right? I mean, that's good. Just like it's good that Justin Bieber's invested in Tomorrow Sports, right? Like, like say what you want, but I mean, having all of these people, the more people that you get involved in golf that have a financial interest in where golf is going, I think is a good thing, especially if those people are, care about the game in the way that those involved in Fenway and the PGA deal and other deals care about that. I think probably Saudis and PIF and all that is going to have some level of involvement, but it certainly looks like it's a very, minority of a minority interest at this point.
You survived the hot seat. You survived it. You did fantastic. Very articulate on all your answers. I mean, but Matt, I do want to thank you for your time and coming on to this particular show, which is all about investing in the future of golf. But I also want to give you the opportunity. Where can somebody go if they want to be an investor or they want to reach out to you guys with a great golf idea? Where can they go catch up with you guys?
Yeah, our website is oldtom.vc for venture capital or venture club. So oldtom.vc, you can Google Old Tom Golf, and I think Old Tom Moore shows up number 1 and we show up number 2. So there you go.
Not bad.
If someone is interested in joining the syndicate, there's an application on our website. You need to be an accredited investor in order to invest in these kind of deals. But we meet with every person who has interest in joining the syndicate. This is a tight network of investors that care about the game and want to get involved in people building the future of that and want to get some return from that. So anyone interested on the investment side can go to our website and look for that. And then we also have just some a forum on the site. If founders, entrepreneurs want to get in touch with us, they can fill that out. But yeah, we're excited about where golf's going and sitting at the middle of this ecosystem and doing investing and helping founders build and looking for opportunities, and having a perspective, right? I think like what you probably gathered from me is I do respect where golf has been, but I have a perspective and on where we're going, and I think you also need to. It's important if you're working in the golf industry to have a narrative and a thesis and to own that, and so we're excited in getting involved with people who think in a similar way.
Awesome. Absolutely love it. I've got nothing else to chime in on that about at all. Fantastic work that you're doing within the game as well. So I do want to thank you for that and bringing us cool companies as well, like Drivebox, Fair Game, Putter, and others. So now I do want to thank our sponsors before we sign off here. First off, folks, once again, the Swannies Polo. I mean, it's fresh. Go to swannies.co. Oh, go ahead, man.
The collar's nice. I like the collar.
Yeah, it's with the orange too. I mean, it's on the inside. Yeah.
That's nice.
It's fresh, and by the way, it's also saving the planet. So I don't mention this as much as I've become quite accustomed to their polos and just love them for what they are with the stretchy, soft material. But they also recycle bottles through and use them in the creation of the polo. So you're saving the planet every step of the way. Go to swannies.co, utilize Pullhook Golf 25 at checkout as your promo code, and get 25% off your entire order.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed the time, and thanks for everything you're doing, spreading the good word and interviewing great people.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.